Hello everybody, my name is Eric, this is the YouTube channel Gun Gamers, and today we're going to talk about a fun subject inspired by a purchase that I have recently been having way too much fun with. We're going to be talking about if pistol carbine kits still make any sense in Airsoft. All right, now I'm just gonna be honest right now. Pistol carbine kits are a dime a dozen in Airsoft. There are so many 3D printed, plastic injection molded, or CNC, take your pick, versions of stocked pistols or pistol carbine kits. There are complete solutions sold out of the box from manufacturers. There are kits that are made by 3D printers in their garage. There are kits that are made by people who just bolt stuff to a gun, or there's just any number of things you can buy from any number of options. I would never be able to list them all. They are everywhere. But my question is, do they make practical sense in Airsoft gameplay? And if so, under what circumstances? Now, circumstance number one, I know a lot of people are going to point to, is when you want to run your pistol as your primary, as is very popular with Speed QB, Speed Soft Play in general, and indoor games in general. And yeah, that's fair. If you want to run a pistol as a primary, one of the main upgrades you can make to it is absolutely the ability to use a stock and optics and lights and all that fun stuff. Now, a lot of that is starting to become more standard on kits that are just pistols. You can get optics ready slides, and most things have a frame, but having a stock and having all that in addition is a very nice upgrade to a pistol. So yeah, if you really want to run your pistol as your primary, okay, yeah, carbine kit makes sense for a lot of situations. But where doesn't it make sense? And in my opinion, where it doesn't make sense is as soon as you go outside. And the reason I say that is because as many people are going to try to tell me that their pistol carbine kit is just as competitive at outdoors games as everybody with their AEGs and light machine guns and designated marksman rifles, the reality is at longer engagement ranges, you are basically trying to engage with a gas blowback PDW against people who might have tuned up HPA, people who might have really nice AEGs, people who have light machine guns. Yeah, now you're really starting to suffer. Now, granted, it is a very lightweight and compact, gun still, so if that's a priority for you, then maybe you think that trade-off is worth it. But unless you're at a game that basically lets you bolt an extended high cap or drum mag to this thing, you are at a huge disadvantage. For example, I have a GHK Glock in this Archwick USWG kit. These are 18 round magazines. Now, it says they're 20 or 22 round magazines on the webpage, but I'm telling you, you could put a gun to my head and I'm not getting a 19th round into these magazines. I'll have to figure that out. But I have 18 round magazines, and this gun, with all of its limitations and jank of being a, heavy duty gas blowback pistol versus somebody with their Wolverine MTW. You see what I mean? It is a practical disadvantage. But at an indoor game, now all of a sudden you might be able to really play the corners and stick to tight areas. And now it's not as big of a deal that you don't have as much ammo for suppressing fire, because you're not really suppressing. You're rushing corners and taking a couple shots right into somebody. Okay, now you're playing ball again. But that's what I mean when I say that in terms of running this as a primary, very context dependent. You kind of have to know what you're getting into, or maybe you just really love the challenge. One of the other big disadvantages I think you gain with a lot of pistol carbine kits, not necessarily this one for reasons I'll get into in a second, but with a lot of them is if you have something 3D printed or plastic, very often those are kind of sensitive and they might break on you if you're particularly rough with them. And to my mind, if you're going to run a pistol carbine kit as a primary, get something durable, at least something that like bolts the gun in solidly in place and isn't going to break if you just stock it too hard. I have seriously felt 3D printed carbine kits where I felt like if I pulled it too hard into my shoulder, it was gonna break. This, USWG does not give me that same concern. This is a much more solidly built system and is actually what convinces me that some of these can be built to feel really, really good. Now, is it the most comfortable thing in the world? No, but it's not going to break. And I think that that's very important. So if your pistol carbine kit is not durable, I don't think it makes any sense. Now, one of the other big issues with pistol carbine kits, aside from, actual physical practicality, is also the rules at your different facilities or your different games that you might be playing at. Now, a lot of times there are different weapons classes for different things, and they don't always put these systems in a way that they get access to any interesting abilities that can really shine. So for example, let's say you go to a game that just has pistols are standard under rifleman class. So that means that you're just going to be limited to standard, non-winding, non-drum, non-HPA tapped type magazines with this gas blowback pistol in the same class as your Wolverine MTWs and your Umbrella OCAWs and your tuned up guns. You are at a distinct competitive disadvantage compared to other members of that class, which again, totally allowed if you just think it's fun and you want to play with the challenge. Do what you want. I'm not here to tell you how to play your game. I'm just saying if you're trying to strategize, this is poor strategy. But if you go to a game that has PDW or SMG rules, we are working on those for Gun Gamers Productions, just to drop that in. But if you're going somewhere that has those, maybe this qualifies, and now all of a sudden you can have a full auto pistol put in your carbine kit. And now that full auto, it's like, okay, yeah, I've got the limitations of what is still just a gas blowback pistol in a chassis kit, but now I can use full auto. Or maybe you're allowed to use drum magazines if you qualify for the SMG class. So those are things that you can consider. But if you are just going to a game where this is standard part and parcel of any other rifleman class weapon, yeah, it kind of sucks. But what about using it as a secondary? And that's where I want to get into some of the unique things about kits like this, because that's where I think we get to where these make a little bit more sense. Now, if you have something that's more of a folding chassis system, like this USWG kit, or like the USW that ASG makes, or like one of those Flux Raider kits, those can theoretically be holstered. And now when you can carry this, much more like a standard sidearm, and use it as a backup gun for a light machine gun, or for a DMR, or for a sniper rifle, or for a medium machine gun, or even for a standard rifle, now all of a sudden you've just upped the capability of your secondary weapon. Does that come at the cost of weight and being a little bit less convenient to carry? It absolutely does. But if you're going to something like a mount game, or maybe it makes sense that, okay, I want to be able to clear buildings, but I'm carrying the machine gun. Rules of the game don't allow me to clear the building with the machine gun. Well, if you've got space to put this, now all of a sudden you can clear buildings with the rest of your squad with a weapon that in buildings definitely competes a lot better than outdoors. So now you've got a very effective outdoors weapon supplemented by a very effective indoors weapon. And that is a really interesting system that you can play around with and do a lot of cool stuff, I think. Now that said, that benefit really only applies when we're talking about something that is this size of PDW. And there are some options that aren't even pistol carbine kits that might fall into this. You've got your Mac 11s, you've got your mini Uzis, you've got your MP7s. So there's also other ways that you can do this, but if you are looking for a way to, use an existing inventory of gas gun magazines while having a new class of weapon to play with, that's another use case where I think the pistol carbine kit makes a lot of sense. And the other nice thing about putting one of your own gas handguns into a carbine kit as opposed to buying a whole separate gas blowback is that now you have something that's compatible with the whole parts and magazines ecosystem of the gun that you've put in the kit, as opposed to whatever specialty gun you just bought. Say, for example, you bought a KWC Uzi to try to have a small PDW backup. Well, good luck getting parts. That thing is just a really weird ecosystem all into itself, and you're probably gonna have a bad time. You could get something like a KWA MP9, but you gotta find it in stock and you gotta do all that stuff, and it's a whole struggle with the MP9 from what I understand. But with a kit that now you just have your main handgun or a main handgun of yours in, all those magazines, all that inventory of parts, all that aftermarket parts support still applies, and you can use that while also now having a PDW or indoor primary class of weapon, and that's really neat. Another place where I think guns like this make a lot of sense is at LARPier games, things like Milsim West Insurgency or RIP Survive Omega. I really enjoy using something that you can stash away at those games, and usually for me, that's a handgun. And the reason for that is because I'm not trying to walk around everywhere with a slung rifle that draws a lot of attention, kind of makes you a walking target package for some of the more militant players, and you can also just, negotiate your way through some things. But then you got the piece ready if you need it, so you can at least defend yourself to escape the situation and maybe get to a heavier weapon or some friendly forces if you need them. But that's talking about all kinds of different game theory of a LARP game that is a whole new world. And that's exactly why I think in a LARP game, this fits a really neat bill. This will fit in a large fanny pack or a crossbody satchel. So now you have a concealed PDW type weapon that you can pull out and use and deploy effectively, and it will allow you to do the same thing you could do with your handgun, but I think just that little bit more effectively and in a little bit more fun way, that it also, I think, just adds some flair to a character if you're walking around with something like this. I think that's pretty neat. Now, I will have a whole separate review on this particular setup that I have in this chassis once I've actually put it through a lot more field testing. But in terms of my thoughts on pistol carbine kits, I'm glad that I've been playing around with this because I think it gave me a little bit of new perspective to consider, and I think I actually like them more than I used to. So if you have your own thoughts on pistol carbine kits and you want to talk about those in the comments, tell me I'm wrong, right, or you think I totally missed something glaringly obvious, be sure to let me know. If you liked or disliked this video, be sure to let me know with those like and dislike buttons. And if you want to see more videos like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can be notified whenever we publish videos to this Gun Gamers channel. Once again, my name has been Eric, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.